Welcome to How I Rent It, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the tent rental industry. I'm Tony Ehrbar, the owner of American Tent, one of the leading event tent manufacturers in the U.S. As someone who got started in the event rental industry over 10 years ago, I'm excited to bring you the stories behind the people who keep events running smoothly. Was watching an episode of Shark Tank one night, had a couple of beers, and went on Craigslist, and in Green Bay was a tent rental business.
At the end of the day, failure was not an option. I'm going to do this.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is my first time on one, listening to one, seeing one. Yes, sir.
Each episode, we'll talk to inspiring event rental business owners to learn how they got started, the challenges they've faced, and their secrets to success. Whether you're dreaming of starting your own rental business or just love hearing great entrepreneurial stories with plenty of in-tent puns thrown in, this podcast is for you. Stephen has been through the rental industry for over 15 years.
And I was born under a tent.
This is the part where we're going to get into where we're going to have like VP of HR come in and just like okay the questions and answers. What does Ricky Bobby say? If you ain't first, you're last.
That's it. Absolutely.
So grab your coffee, your notebook, or just sit back and relax with a box of popcorn. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, and join me as we uncover the journey behind the tent rental industry and how I rent it. Welcome back to How I Rent It, the podcast where we take you inside the tent rental business, sharing insights from those who built their business from the ground up. I'm your host, Tony Ehrbar, reporting live from Green Bay, Wisconsin, where we have the NFL draft this week. I'm the CEO and owner of American Tent. And today I'm excited to welcome our guest, Jeff Crotto, who brings a unique perspective from All About Events down in Jacksonville, Florida. Jeff has been in the rental industry for 20 years. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know him through the American Rental Association, which is a fantastic resource. Jeff was previously the president, and he's currently the board chair. Today, we'll be talking to Jeff about his rental journey, diving into how he got started, what he's learned along the way, and what's next for the business. If you're looking for insights on overcoming challenges, scaling your business, or simply learning from the best, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Jeffrey, how you doing?
Good, Tony. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to have a chat. Tell us a little bit about your business just to get started.
Sure. So I moved to Jacksonville about 20 years ago. And at the time I was sort of trying to figure out the next chapter for me work-wise, what I wanted to do. And I worked for a small family-owned rental store for about 5 years. My background prior to that was entirely customer service, selling to customers, teaching people to take care of customers. Just felt like it could be done better. And that's really, the reason that I started All About Events 15 years ago. Currently, we have about just under 50 employees. We're a full service event rental company. We do a lot of tents, but a lot of other things. We do, tables and chairs, a lot of tabletop, and really do a little bit of everything. It's been a crazy ride for the last 15 years of All About Events.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people who did it for a couple of years and said, I can do it better. I see a different way. And so take me back to getting the business off the ground then. So what were you doing, I guess, before being in the rental industry?
Yeah, so my background was in multi-unit management. In-town suites is a name a lot of people know. It's an extended stay hotel. I was a district manager for them. And again, it was training people to take care of customers. That's my strength, and that's my passion. When I moved to Jacksonville, my parents had retired to Florida a couple of years before, and I was dating a young lady at the time that moved to Jacksonville. So when I came, I was trying to figure out what I want to do next, and got into rental, and here I am.
I mean, you are nothing if not a people person.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Totally a compliment. There's some competition with all the other guys in your, what's the pink shirt group you're a part of?
The Flirty Group. The
Flirty Group, yes. Jeff and team walks around in their flirty pink shirts on, is it normally day 2 or day 3 of the show?
Yeah, day 2. Yep.
Day 2 of the ARA show. So how did you fund your business initially?
So I started doing it part-time. So I was working for another rental store, decided this is what I wanted to do, created a website, which was really, really bad to start with. I did it for about 6 months on the side. So between money I had saved and then money, basically everything I brought in the business in those first 6 months or so, put it all back in the business, and, just kind of, delivered tents at night and on the weekends and that sort of thing, and picked them up as well, and just put everything back in the business until it got to a point where it was too large to be able to do, part-time anymore. And then from there, I just begged and borrowed and pleaded to get work and put it in, and lived very frugally for a long time, trying to invest as much as I could in the business, because I knew the more I had in inventory, the more I'd be able to do in terms of revenue and stuff.
Was that friends and family who were helping you with installations, or were you hoisting up your own 20 by 40s with your brute strength?
It was me, but I had a young lady who I was dating at the time, and her son, who was a teenager. They were basically my first employees. So we would go out and put up tents. And I mean, I would literally, I get a call on my cell phone for, an inquiry. I would answer the person's questions and get them to a point where they needed a quote. And then I would say, give me 30 minutes. I'll call you back and get your information and send you a quote. And then I would get out of the car, put up a tent, and then call them back and get their information. And that's literally the way it went for, many months when I first started.
So the very first event, how did it go?
It was good. It was, the way this industry is, it was a 5 a.m. setup. It was a 20 by 20 with tables and chairs. It was the Jacksonville Spine Center. And they were doing their tent was on a walk kind of thing. And like I said, it'd be there 5 a.m. to set this tent up and back at noon to pick it up. And it's still what we do today. And, but it went well. I mean, they were happy, and they rented from us a couple more times. I think they've changed kind of what they do now. But yeah, I mean, it was, by our standards, it was a success. And, I think it showed that the work was a little easier to get than we thought it was going to be. I thought was going to be the biggest challenge coming in, was being able to figure out get a customer base and a following, so to speak.
No, that makes sense. I was the first guest. It was turned around, and my salesman Jake was interviewing me. Ours was it was on cement. Nobody told me ahead of time, and so I had to go in search of cement blocks, and so we lost about $5,000. So way better, easier experience than my first one. I didn't know what I didn't know, since we were brand new to rentals. So what was the biggest challenge you faced when getting the business off the ground?
Well, I mean, I think it's inventory. I mean, no matter what you have, I mean, we still deal with it to a certain degree today. I mean, obviously we're, capitalized significantly better than we were back then, but it's the same struggle. If you have a 20 by 20, they want a 20 by 30. If you have 50 chairs, they want 100. If you have 200, they want 300. I mean, it still goes on to this day. I mean, I was buying product this morning for events that, we have coming up, and, we have 50,000 square foot warehouse with stuff in it, and somehow people still manage to find the stuff you don't have. So that was the biggest challenge early on, was trying to live with limited funds, trying to figure out where to buy it, what to buy, buy this versus buy that, all that kind of stuff. That was what is, and it still is difficult. Now it's, like I said, more of a what to buy, not to buy versus, can we buy it?
Right. Text message from our buddy Warren up in South Carolina the other day, looking for 119 10 by 10 pop-up tents. So he had a big event up there, but Warren's a character. We can have him on, but we might need to tone it down just a hair, because he's a character.
Yeah. That sounds like Warren.
Was there a defining moment when you knew you're going to be successful?
Yeah. It's funny. When I left the other company and I started All About Events, I really didn't go after many of their clients. It was really 3 clients I went after, and they weren't particularly big. They were just unique, and I had really good relations with it. It's really, I probably could have taken more than I did, but they were ones that I wanted to. And one of them was an event called the Gate River Run, which is it's a 15K. It's the U.S. Championship 15K, basically the biggest 15K in the States, I believe. Do it every spring. And I had been dealing with the event for years. And I reached out to him. He was one of the 3 people. And the other 2 I had both converted into our customers. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody, and they asked me, did you take, when I was telling them I had done this, and this had been months into it, and they said, did you get the work that you take customers, try to take customers? And I said, I only tried 3, and I got 2 out of the 3. The other one I never heard from. And literally that afternoon, I got an email from the guy that did the Gate River Run. He basically said, I'm willing to give you a chance. Send me a quote. You know what we need. So I did a quote. We did the event, and we've been doing it ever since. We just did it a month ago. That was one where, okay, this is a real event. It's not a huge order. I mean, it's a medium-sized order for what we do now, but it just at the time was huge. And it was just it sort of set the tone that, okay, people are going to give us a chance. And then I knew that we could out-service them and stuff, because that was, again, what my strength is.
Did you sub stuff out early on from other people?
A little bit. I mean, mostly it wasn't tents. I pretty much from the beginning has been our own stuff. We certainly did some tables and chairs and linens and things like that. But I got in with the idea, and I sort of regret saying it, but I got in this business to rent stuff to people, not rent stuff from people. And it's difficult, because you definitely have to rent stuff, but I tried to buy as much as I could buy anytime I could buy it, within reason. And but yeah, there definitely was some sub renting for sure early on.
What size tents did you start with?
The first one was a 20 by 20 and it was expandable. So I could go, and then basically went, kind of up from there, 20 by 30s and just, bought mids, etc. And then got into, had one weird job for a church that was they had a huge campus and really weird configuration. They wanted tents like all over the place and different. So that really helped me get into 10s and 15 wides. I bought all kinds of, 10 by 20 over here and a 10 by 30 over here and a 15 by 30 over here and all that stuff. So that got me some of the smaller stuff. And then the bigger stuff, we just sort of, as we got calls for it, we eventually bought it.
One thing whenever we talk to customers buying their first tent, make it modular, make it a 20 wide. So each weekend that tent can get out. You can sweat that asset. So what is one mistake you made early on that taught you a valuable lesson?
Well, I think it's buying cheap stuff. I mean, I think you get a call for X and you go buy the cheapest one you can find. And I mean, I can give countless examples, whether that's a heat lamp for an event, you go buy the cheapest one you can find and it gets through 3 events and it's crashes and burns and you make your money back, but whereas if you bought one that was twice as much, you'd have it, 5 years from now. And one of the first places that really hit home was aluminum chairs. I priced them early on and they were just so expensive compared to what we were, the traditional Samsonite chairs we were getting. And I wish I would have bought them from the beginning. Now that's all we have. And, as far as folding chairs, go, and it, would have saved me. I mean, I bought some of those chairs 2 and 3 and 4 times before I finally went to aluminum.
Everyone, that's the first set of chairs they buy. They rust out. You try to paint them. You try to clean them. The aluminum ones are quite nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So looking back, is there anything you might have done differently when starting out? And I know we've talked about a couple things, but anything in particular stand out to you?
I say all the time that ARA and my involvement in ARA has changed my life and my business. I mean, and I mean that, obviously changing the business changes your life, but I mean, it changed both, changed both parts of it. It's made me a better leader. It's made me, push outside of my comfort zone with stuff and things like that. So I would have gotten involved earlier. I got involved early anyway, but I would have got involved even earlier, if I would have known what, the value it was going to bring, both from a networking component, having people to sub-rent things from and those kind of things. All those things are super helpful.
I think the network is really important because if someone in Washington State, you guys don't compete against each other, right? And so you can share resources with each other. Are you a CERP, a certified event rental professional?
I am, and we have a few on our team as well. Yep.
Okay. Benefits of that program?
There's a ton of education in that's really good. And even for somebody that's new, like my GM, relatively new in the industry, and he took it. And I think there's stuff that even someone like that will learn education-wise. Beyond that, there's some credibility to sending a customer an email and having letters behind your name. The same way it does if it's, CPA or PhD or whatever. And even though they may not know what it means, you did something to get that certification. And they're not going to go, oh, he's a CERP, we're going to book with him. Just another thing that makes your opinion sound good when you're making recommendations, or if you're competing against someone that may not sound as professional as you, it just makes you seem even that much more professional.
Yeah, the comma after my name is BA, which stands for badass. Nobody ever thinks it's impressive, but I guess I do.
I do too.
Thank you. So what strategies helped you grow your business from a startup to where it is today?
Just saying yes. We just said yes to everything. I tell a story. This college came to us. They wanted this big order, and it was a 40 wide 10, 40 by 80 or something, all kinds of other stuff. And one of the things they had on their list when they sent, a request for proposal was like 500 of those little, like 8-ounce water bottles. And in the company I worked for before, we would have just said, we don't do that. And they probably would have just got them on their own, but we put them on there at, $1 a piece, whatever we put on there. And they booked the order. So literally on the day of the event, as we went out to set up the tent, we stopped at Sam's Club and bought $60 worth of bottled water from Sam's Club, and then went to their thing and sold to them for $450 or something. And not only did it help us get the whole order, we made money on it. And there's countless examples through the years where we've just said yes to people on something that to get a bigger order when other people and it's just a service thing. It's just a customer service thing where other people just say, we don't do that. It's easy to say you don't do that because it's true. Like it's the only time we've ever bought water bottles for a customer, but it also was easy to say yes. And
Yeah.
it may have been the difference between us and them. If our prices are exactly the same, but we'll do the water bottles, what do you think they're going to choose?
Right. Yep.
You know?
And I think the trick to saying yes is making sure you can, I mean, it's still an under promise, over deliver kind of. And then on the other side, it's making sure you're not bending over so far backwards that it ends up losing you money.
Right.
But if you can be smart about it and you can take $150 worth of water bottles and parlay them into $450 just to make their day easier, I think that's a great plan. Is there anything you've ever said no to and you're glad you did?
We've gotten much better about saying no. We still say yes when it makes sense, but we do say no if it doesn't make sense. And I think one of the things we've really walked away from in the last probably close to 10 years is beach setups. We get a ton of calls for those because we're on the beach in Jacksonville. I mean, our store's 15 miles or so from the actual beach. And it's a huge destination wedding. People want to get married on the sand and all that stuff. And it is horrific to deliver chairs, set up chairs. Most of them are no, you can't use a 10-ox or anything like that. And we just say no. If you want us to get on the sand, the price starts at this, which no one's going to pay for 40 or 50 chairs, which is typically what it is. That's probably the biggest thing we say no to regularly is the beach.
Yeah, I think people don't think also about trying to ballast the tent on the beach because that's really soft ground, right?
Yeah.
And then the tent is never... We used to do things in the backyard for someone and eventually we started asking, okay, how far is it? Or we do a Google Earth and there's down like stairs and all those things. Yeah, it's never right up on the boardwalk. It's always a couple 100 yards into the sand, I'm guessing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So what are the 3 types of events or markets you service the most often?
So we still do a ton of weddings. About 50% of our business is weddings, whether that's directly with the bride or, we have a ton of caterers and planners and stuff like that we work with. And then beyond that is definitely corporate and schools for us. We have a number of colleges around us. We do stuff at those. And, one of them, we do all their athletic department stuff. So, I mean, those are the 3 biggest for us for sure.
Was that a conscious decision or just over time? That's kind of the markets you guys ended up in?
Yeah, it's just sort of the way it worked out. I mean, the wedding thing, the business I came from was wedding heavy. I mean, their inventory was lean that way. So we started out copying them a little bit. So we inherently got some of that wedding business that way. But, we have a huge linen selection. All those things, lead to tons of wedding work.
Yeah, and weddings are nice. I mean, you can send a crew out and have all of that stuff. That's a big share wallet, right? For an event, you can make more on that type of event rather than doing 100 graduation parties on a weekend, which, I mean, when you're getting started out, do 3 or 4 graduation parties. That's great. But yeah, most people I've talked to said weddings is the place they wanted to get to. It's just a matter of how do you guys, I mean, this is the most important day in a woman's life and a man's life. How do you guys think, what does your service look like around that to ensure that they, you kind of meet their expectations and deal with all the maybe other things that are going on?
Well, one thing is, if you're doing it, especially if you're doing a backyard thing, you can set up in advance. So we're doing deliveries as early as Tuesday in some cases for that weekend thing, which, that's the biggest thing that they don't understand is the time they're going to need leading in the day and 48 hours leading into the wedding. I mean, as a recent groom myself, I went through the same thing with my bride. She said early on she got a price from a florist, she was going to make her own centerpieces, and I was like, no, you're not. Like, you are going to be so busy the day before, you're not making your centerpieces. So just pay the florist and let's move on. But so I think that's the first part of it. And then the other thing for our is back to the service stuff. Like we just don't tell. If we tell a customer we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And if it means having people out there, if we deliver it on Wednesday, if we have to be out there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the wedding, if that's what it takes, we're going to do whatever it takes to make that person completely happy when we walk away. Sometimes they're not happy with something they ordered, maybe, and whether that's our fault or their fault, whatever. I tell customers all the time, let's fix it, let's get through the wedding, and then we can talk about the money later. Like whether you owe more, whether we owe you a refund, whatever the case is, let's get through the day, make everybody happy, and then we'll deal with the money part second. Because it's not. I mean, it's important to make the money. I get it, but it's in that particular case, everybody's high strung. The last thing you do is get in that conversation then.
Yeah, for sure. So then, how do you market to your customers?
So we almost exclusively use Google Ads. We've used them from the very beginning. I've never done cold calls. We do have an outside sales young lady that's been with us. We've had a few over the years. We have one that's new and really good. She's been with us about 60 days maybe. So she's doing a lot of real networking and we've had some over the years, but really it's primarily the, advertising to the website.
Do you guys have a showroom?
We do. So we were in one space that had a pretty good showroom, about 4,000 square feet. We were there for 7 years. We had a fire about a year ago and had to move because of that. And the new space has about a 10,000 square foot showroom, which is way bigger than we need. But the way it's laid out, there's really nothing. We've sort of cordoned it off as much as we could with, making some of that warehouse space. But it's enormous. It's an advantage, but it's nice enough. It could be its own wedding venue the way it is. Yeah.
How do you manage your finances and ensure that you're profitable? That's a hard thing when people start out thinking about that management.
Yeah. Now we job cost every single delivery. We do a significant number, about a third of our business, maybe a little less, is customer pickup. So those are kind of easy. That's stuff that you own, people are picking up. So it's pretty hard to not make money doing that. But on the deliveries, we job cost every single delivery. We've been doing that for about 2 years. And that's helped, as my hands are not on every single thing as much as it used to be. Previously, I would have said that was what it is, or sort of keep my thumb on everything, which is not sustainable. So the job costing has really helped because you can see that, okay, this job's a loser. We need to add something to it, or it's making good money. If customer wants a discount, we know how much room we have to discount it. So that's made a big, and we use the ARA job costing tool for that.
Oh, that must be a new thing, or I just never saw it. Thinking about mileage, thinking about guys. That's a great resource. Easy to find on the website.
Yeah, it is. It is easy to find. And anybody can reach out to me. I'm happy to point in the right direction too. But yeah, it's a few years old. James Auerbach, when he was at ARA, something he helped come up with. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward in terms of, some baseline things you can put in, and then you're basically putting in, plugging in guys and miles and that sort of thing.
Great tool. So then how do you decide what new products or services to add to your offering?
So we go to the show every year, and that helps us. We don't do as much buying there as we used to. It's more a fact-finding tour for us. So we see all the stuff that's out there, see different things. We'll get some China pattern samples and bring them back. And then we sort of have that stuff. So when someone comes and says, hey, I want a tent with hardwall, I go, oh, I know American Tent has that. So those kind of things. So it's those kind of things we use the show for now to, sort of get educated so that we can then make decisions when people come to stuff, come to us for stuff that we don't already have in our inventory. And in some cases, we sort of know, okay, we want to get a black bentwood chair. So then when someone orders one, then we go ahead and buy some, that kind of thing.
A lot of times people are split on China and linens being something you want to do or something you want to work with someone on. So it sounds like you do it yourself. Why did you make that decision? And my guys always had dirty hands. And so sending them out or making linens, doing the linens. So what's your linen flatware perspective?
So our guys in the field the only thing we basically tell people we do not do is we don't put linens on tables. And that's the reason you just said. The guys that's even if they just deliver tables and chairs, their hands are dirty. You don't want them handling your white linen. And customers completely understand that. 99% do. So that stuff they don't touch. So they don't put linens on table. They don't touch China. They don't touch glassware. In terms of doing them, we make as much money on linen as probably we make on anything, because once the cost to buy the linen is so low, relatively speaking, what you can rent it for. And we're renting them in some cases for, as much or close to as much as we're buying them for. So, you can make, especially on the whites and blacks and ivories and reds and those kind of colors, you can make a fair amount of money because they go out, pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And the China's a little bit of a harder deal. I think we probably have too many China patterns for our size, but the thing I've found is we just got to work through them. Like if these aren't renting, let's get rid of them. Let's take them out of inventory. And so we're not, buying more for one person that comes along, but there's definitely money to be made in both of those.
So the next two questions are about someone starting a business. Any common or fatal mistakes you've seen other business make that would help our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is being short-sighted. At the end of the day, when I decided I was going to do this, it was 2 feet in. There was failure was not an option. I'm going to do this. I'm going after it. And if I'm going down in a blaze of glory, I'm going down in a blaze of glory. I think, people are, conservative. They buy the cheaper this, they buy the cheaper that. They're sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. And I just think you have to go for it because it's so competitive. There's, we've gone from being the the new guy with everything in a 10 by 10 storage unit to being the biggest player in our market, basically, at least, locally. And there's everybody's out there trying to do 20 by 20s. So, I have to find something to differentiate us from them. And then same thing goes for them. And when you're smaller, it's, price is the price and service are the two places you can try to outbox somebody.
Right.
But I just think you got to be all in. It doesn't mean you need to go broke, but you got to just, don't be shy. Don't buy the cheapest, buy it as if you're going to have that tent for the next 10 years and rent it. Because if you're in business, you're going to be.
Yeah. Other side of the coin, what do you think about having your day job, spending your weekends doing it? Is that a viable strategy?
No, for sure. I think that's not for everyone. We saw during COVID, a lot of the small players in our market went away during that time. The people that were, wedding planners that had chairs in China, or, people that were, smaller people, just, it's just harder. But I definitely think doing it, as I say, use the term backyard warrior. That sounds, derogatory. It's not meant that way. But I think doing it out of your garage is perfectly acceptable until you figure out this is what you want to do full time, because it is labor intensive, and it is, people intensive, which is certainly not for everyone.
Right. Yep. Then a piece of advice you'd give someone who's thinking of starting a rental business:
buy nice or buy twice.
Buy nice or buy twice.
Yep.
I like the focus
example
on
I gave
quality.
the aluminum chairs. Exactly.
Yep.
You'll be buying it again
Right.
if you buy the cheapest thing on the market.
So we're going to get into some fun rental questions. One tool or piece of equipment you can't live out, and there is currently a leader in the clubhouse from the other conversations I've had for this question.
Okay, so for me personally, if I was going out in a truck today, the one thing I would take with me is my Gerber, the little multi-tool.
Okay.
It has pliers and the knife and the screwdriver and all that stuff. That when I was in the field every day, I carried that in my, on my belt or in my pocket every single day, because it was. Now my guys would probably tell you it's a block and roll dolly, because we do so many blocks. That stuff's totally changed our business. And having that is a lifesaver.
Yeah, Tentox was a very popular answer as well.
Yeah.
Great tool. So you mentioned a small item you might have in your glove box, but for your guys, what's one small item that's sitting in every glove box in all of your trucks?
Well, I wish they all had them all the time, is the little cutters to cut zip ties for lights or whatever, because otherwise they just pull the lights and break the light string to rip them off the zip ties. So I wish they all carried cutters all the time.
Yeah. I think the rental industry keeps the zip tie industry in business, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Most memorable event or project you've been a part of? So
prior to COVID, we did a lot, just about all of the furniture for the Players Championship, the golf tournament here in Ponte Vedra. Nice. Yeah, so we did. Yeah. It used to be about 5,000 resins. So that was the biggest order we did all year. That was a super cool event. It's gone away because of COVID, which had nothing to do with us. But
okay, how many box trucks of resin chairs was that?
It was day. We would just take them over and drop them off in the parking lot, and the company who had the contract would basically take the chairs into the. I don't even know, 14 trips, 14 something trips like that. Yeah, one year. This is off the topic, but you'll like this story. We had like 3,500. We needed 5,000, and the chairs didn't show up like they were supposed to from the company we bought them from. So I flew on Sunday. I flew up to Atlanta. I rented a budget truck. I drove to the factory when I was sitting outside the factory when they opened at 9 a.m. Monday morning. They loaded the 800 that we needed to finish the order, and I drove directly from Atlanta all the way to the golf course in Ponte Vedra, where my team met me, and we unloaded, unpacked these chairs at 6 p.m. that same day. So that's the kind of stuff you go through in the rental industry. Yeah,
I think I did that one time, or someone on my team with tables. So I think that's another point towards working with a good vendor, someone who's going to deliver something to you on time, and that could have been a one-off from a good vendor. If you get stuck, what was your shrinkage or breakage on those chairs going to the Players? You send out 5,000, you getting back like 4,800? We
would lose about 40 or 50 a year, as I remember. They were pretty good about, they would pay for them, but we were losing less than 100, but it was in the 40, 50 range, if I remember correctly.
Some drunk patrons taking some chairs home, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the most unusual or surprising request you've received from a client?
The most unusual one is probably a stripper pole. We've had that a
was
few
my
times.
answer as well.
We've had that
Yeah.
a few times. We don't rent them for the record, but we have gotten that request a few times.
I mean, a good, strong center pole has
Yeah.
been serviced as that was mine was the bride asked if she's like, well, how much weight could this hold? We were trying to figure out why and realized it was a bachelorette party. So
Yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What's the most rewarding part of running a rental business?
I think the most rewarding part of it's just and I think it probably applies to any business, is the team you're able to put together, and the personal and professional growth of those people. Watching somebody who's, kind of comes to work for you and, doesn't have their act together. And, I've had people with us 10 years, and just watching them progress, their family grow, have kids, get married, all that kind of stuff. It's just super cool to watch people's, and you'll have spouses thank me at like Christmas parties and stuff. And I always say all the time, like, it's not me. Like, all we did is give them a chance, and they've taken advantage of the opportunity. But that's the most rewarding thing, is watching people, grow up, so to speak.
Yeah. I bet knowing you and the culture you probably have, it's not difficult to find new people. Probably got a lot of referrals from the guys and girls on the staff.
Yeah. We have some, and we have family members in a few cases and things like that, which is super cool. It's just watching them live at home, move out, all, get married, all those kind of things.
Do you have a favorite interview question that you ask people when they're joining the team?
So the first question I always ask is, tell me about yourself. And I do it because people will tell you stuff that you can't ask in an interview. Like, they'll tell you if they're married, they'll tell you if they have kids, they'll tell you their story, if there's something you may not think to ask. And a lot of times it spurs conversation from there. But I start every single interview with that. And once in a while, you'll get a really weird response. But generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward. A lot of times they'll be like, what do you want to know? I'm like, well, I don't know, whatever. It's your turn. You tell me, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted a specific question, I'd ask it. But that's my favorite. That's the one I start every single interview with.
So any unexpected successes or funny moments in your journey?
Well, let me say this. I am surprised. This is not uplifting. I'm surprised we are here after COVID. Like, I vividly remember where I was when in my flirty group, we have a text thread where the text came through that the CDC had limited groups to 10 people. And I vividly remember responding, game over, because I just thought we didn't have a chance. If they're not going to let us get together, we just have no shot. And when we closed our office for a month during that time, and I thought when I locked the door that day that we were probably not coming back. So to be here and be, I don't know, close to twice the size we were pre, I don't know how we did it, but somehow we are here. So
yeah. Did you guys get clever with anything? Was there something you didn't think about when COVID first started that your team was like, hey, we should do this? Like, a catering company started delivering boxed food to people for stock to like keep their staff creative.
No, we were obviously very lucky in Florida. I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I mean, we were open very early. So we were closed for a month. We came back, much smaller group, and we basically, we were working with, churches and places like that, trying to get some work going. And then we started getting outdoor graduations was a big thing for us, like in May and June. And that was when I sort of knew, okay, we're going to be okay here, because this is going to, it's going to subside and we'll be fine in the interim. But it was more just, being fortunate we were in Florida, I think, more than anything.
Biggest risk you've taken, and how did it turn out?
I don't know. I don't have a great biggest risk. I mean, probably starting the business in some way. I mean, it doesn't surprise me we've been successful, but I guess the level of success is certainly a little bit surprising. My dad was, he was always sort of wanted to go on the entrepreneurial path and never did, just because, he worked for IBM and you have a family and kids and wife and house and all that stuff, and you can't take a risk. So I was single with no kids at the time, and basically, I have a job, I'm leaving a job, I can find another job if I really don't succeed. But I guess it was still a big risk at the time, but they were definitely afraid that I was going to fail, because my job, quote unquote, was going to find out what I was doing and fire me, and then I'd be dead. So they were proud that I made it last, and made a go of it and probably bigger than any of us it was going to be when I started for sure.
So Pete McVeigh is currently winning with this answer. What is the most bizarre thing you've ever found left behind at an event?
I do not have an answer for this. I thought about this earlier. I do not have an answer. So Pete's going to still be the leader.
Pete found naked people piled together underneath the tent at a university event. So
that's going to be hard to beat.
Hard to beat, and we'll keep the question in there so I can continue to talk about Pete's story.
Yes.
All right. Rapid fire, non-rental questions. If you could open another business completely unrelated to the event industry, what would it be?
It would be a Raising Cane's franchise.
Raising Cane's. I'm from the north. What is a Raising Cane's?
Raising Cane is a chicken finger place. Started in Louisiana. A guy named Todd Graves. They're all over the Southeast now. We actually don't have them in Jacksonville yet. We're supposed to have one soon. But it basically is just chicken finger, French fries, coleslaw, and Texas toast. That's it. There's nothing else on the menu. And they are the best chicken fingers I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard of it, and he has kind of a fun backstory or something as to how
he's got a dog. The dog is Cane, I guess. And yeah, so they're primarily in the Southeast. Like I said, Louisiana, I think, is where he started, and they're all over like Texas and even west, like Vegas, they're there. And there are some in Florida now. Orlando, Tampa have some. I think they're building one in Jax. So we don't have one yet. But
yeah, if I lived in the South, I'd be in trouble. You have some delicious, unhealthy options. I'm a Whataburger kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's some things down there, Waffle Houses, late at night. So Jeff Crotto walks into the room. What is your theme song that's being played?
So my favorite song when I was in high school was Ice Ice Baby. And they're out there on the interweb. There are videos of me karaokeing that. So that would be the song.
Ice Ice Baby. Do you have a dance that goes along with it or just karaoke?
Just my dulcet tones singing it.
Fair enough. The Pops concert in high school in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I did do a dance to Ice Ice Baby with one other guy. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It was a thing. Go-to fast food option if you're running between jobs.
So we don't have Raising Cane's here, like I said earlier. So it would in Jacksonville, it would either be Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell. I am a Taco Bell fanatic, so one of those two.
Can't go wrong with a good Taco Bell. What's your order?
Oh, it's changed every time. I went today and I had a Cantina bowl, so it changes every time.
Cantina bowl. That sounds healthy.
Yeah, probably healthier than it should be for me, but
probably. Favorite or most gifted book?
So there are two. Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, the negotiation book was really good. And then actually someone who worked with Stephen Eisenstein for a long time. I don't know if you know her. She told me about a book that I read and I've given it a couple times, which is, But Are You Making Any Money?
Okay.
And the lady's name, I wrote it down earlier. It's Marley Matcher. And it's relatively short, paperback kind of thing. And it's excellent because it's, she basically premise of the book is she's telling her family how great her business is doing, all these events she's doing, and her dad or somebody says, but are you making any money? And that's true. I mean, I think a lot of us, oh my God, I'm growing, I'm doing this event, I'm doing that event, blah, 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 blah. But are you making any money? And I think it's a relatively quick read. So I highly recommend that for anybody. So
there's a big, gigantic billboard out in Jacksonville. And what is the message you would want to get out to millions of people? What would the billboard say? What's the message you want to get out to the world?
Have some apathy for the person around you. You don't know what they're going through.
Okay. I like that a lot. If you could have dinner with one historical figure and it can't be your friend Brandon down in Tampa, what would it be?
I've had plenty of dinners with Brandon, so I wouldn't pick that as it would be Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. That was my answer as well. He seemed like, that was a life the guy lived. Yeah.
Well, a super unpopular, position, so to speak. And I think, my belief in leadership is you do what you think is right, whether you think it's popular or not. So
special talent or most interesting thing about yourself. Bonus points if you do it on camera. Steve juggled on camera.
Yeah, I can definitely not juggle. Interesting thing about me, I've used this many times. I do not eat mayonnaise. I think it's the most disgusting substance on the face of the earth. I'll eat mustard on anything in place of it. I love mustard.
Okay.
Just do not eat mayonnaise. I mean, to the point that our kids, every time they get a mayonnaise packet, they put it on my plate and everybody, tries to gross me out with mayonnaise. But I just do not eat mayonnaise. I think it's gross.
Is it texture? Is it taste? Like, is there one particular thing or did you get sick on it as a kid?
No. So, it's funny. The only thing I can trace it back to in high school, I had a kid I ate lunch with all the time. His name was Tim Carr. I'll never forget his name. and you have those big lunch trays. You have French fries, every day, and he would just gob mayonnaise in the corner of his tray. And he was a scooper. So he scooped his fries. I'm doing the motion with my hand so I guess I am doing it on camera. He scooped his fries in mayonnaise. And between the mayonnaise and the consistency and him scooping it, I'm not a scooper anyway. I think that's gross in general, but it just ruined me. And I just have never, now we never ate as a kid. We had Miracle Whip in our house. Like if you want a tuna fish, it's Miracle. And I have tuna fish. So use that, which is a little different consistency. But yeah, the mayonnaise thing just.
Well, hopefully you don't think less of me. I like mayo and I scoop my sauces. Like you give me a chicken nugget, I'm finishing up the hot mustard sauce it's more mustard than there is chicken nugget more.
As long as it's not mayo, it's okay. I can let you
as long as it's not mayo. Fair enough. I'll think of you every time I eat mayo now.
Yeah.
All right. Final question or final thoughts. Any additional advice, any questions I didn't ask for someone starting a rental business?
I mean, I said it before. I mean, I think get involved. And you referenced, people on the other side of the country that are willing to network. I mean, my experience is people in your town will network with you. I mean, I have a text that there's a guy that started a business here in Jacksonville a couple of years ago, and he knew someone that knew me, and he reached out, and he's been in my store. I've given him tours. I answer questions, answer advice, and he's a direct competitor of mine. And it's because people, maybe not in our town, but people did it for me when I was, starting out. The John Bibbos and the Dan Hooks and guys like that who, didn't know me from Adam, and they're willing to open their doors and answer questions, and probably questions they thought were stupid at the time. Get involved, and that's the thing with ARA is you're going to meet people who are going through, the same thing you're going through, but you're also going to meet with people who went through what you're going through previously that you can learn from, and that are more than willing to let you come tour their store, willing to answer your questions, whatever the case is. And it will literally change your life and change your business and change your life.
The resource I always point people to is ARA Insurance. I mean, second to none, because they're focused on exactly what part of the insurance you need.
I think the things on Rental U are really good. The videos that are there, the trainings that are good. I mean, you can show those to your team in team meetings. I think there's resources there. A lot people can upload it's designed to have sort of a YouTube feel where people can upload their own stuff. So you'll find stuff if you're looking for a way to do something or whatever the case is. There's some videos like that. But I mean, those are the kind of those kind of resources that ARA has that are just unbelievable. The insurance. We had referenced it earlier. We had a huge fire a year ago in our warehouse. They took really, really good care of us in terms of, getting us a claim started, getting the adjuster on site, finding us a temporary location, paying for the claim, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we're still under construction, but they've been really, really good, because that's part of it. I mean, having the resources is fine, but when you have a claim, somebody that's going to handle your claim quickly and take care of you and keep you running. And they do a great job of that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you got a business to run, and a month out of business in a busy season or something like that could be catastrophic. So that's awesome that they took good care of you. All right, sir, I really appreciate you coming on. We got more great guests coming up. Some of your friends, certainly. So, but I'm going to, I'll take us out. So want to start a rental business? Visit americantent.com/tent rental and download our detailed guide on the 7 steps to starting your own tent rental business. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. For more great content, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Want to be a guest? Email marketing@americantent.com. Thanks for listening to How I Rent It. And until next time, keep things intense.